In a world of noise and distractions and constant demands, true leadership means cutting through the chaos, the noise, and focusing on what truly moves the needle. Listeners, today we're going to dive into how you can cut out that noise and lead with clarity, intention, and impact. Let's discuss.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos.
Welcome to the Ask Dennis episode. This is a freestyle episode where I'm asked a question by our listeners, or I share my thoughts, experiences, and insights from working with many leaders around the globe. Hey there, listeners. Well, welcome to the Ask Dennis episode. This week I'm going to share, or I shared actually, a client feedback post on social media. And the actual feedback was, Dennis has an incredible ability to sift the noise and invite me to step up in areas that count. Thank you. Well, wonderful client feedback, and it's really quite interesting. But in a nutshell, what stood out for me is that leadership is about cutting through the noise and focusing on what really matters. Now, that's powerful, and it's true. Let's talk about the word noise. What do we mean by it? Well, it's overwhelm. It's those emails, the meetings, the opinions, the expectations, the news cycles, and the firefighting that you're doing on a daily basis. Here's another piece that's quite interesting too. It's the inner critic, that voice in your head, and it's also the outer chaos. So the inner critic and the outer chaos. Noise is anything that distracts you from what matters most. It can actually cloud your thinking, and it can actually slow down your execution or the delivery of things. And it really interrupts your focus, and in turn, it's going to interrupt your journey. And I've seen it over and over again with executive leaders. You know what? They are smart, capable leaders, and they tend to be running at full speed, but actually, they're stuck in the weeds. In fact, they're drowning in the noise. And here's the danger. When you don't cut through the noise, you risk leading on autopilot and not being deliberate. So why is it so important to cut through it? Because great leadership is about direction, not just activity. In other words, doing stuff. It's about focus over that chaos or busyness. It's also about finding clarity in the chaos. Here's a quote from Warren Buffett. The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. An interesting quote. Because if you're always reacting, then you're not leading. What you're doing is you're tending to be just surviving. But when you filter the noise and you focus on what matters, this is when your vision sharpens. It's when your team becomes more aligned and your results will accelerate. You stop spinning your wheels and you can start making meaningful moves. So the question here is, how do you actually cut through the noise? Well, let me give you a few ideas. Number one would be get clear on your non-negotiables. In other words, the must-dos. What are the top 3 priorities for the quarter? What about your top 3 priorities for the week? In fact, what are your top 3 priorities for today? If everything's a priority, then nothing is, because you're going to be spinning too many plates and you'll achieve not much. Number 2 is to create space to think. In other words, build in your planning or thinking time. I notice that a lot of leaders don't actually do that because they're always on the go and they don't take time out to think. Now, my coaching clients, they tend to use a model that I have called the Success Hour. And if you'd like to know more about it, please feel free to reach out to me. Leadership isn't just about doing, it's about thinking. So clarity doesn't happen in chaos. So you need the space to actually hear your own voice, to get above that noise and hear what's going on. Number 3 is say no, but do it strategically. In other words, protect your time. Every yes is a no to something else. And I always ask leaders this question when I'm doing workshops and that. There's a whole lot of stuff that you think I must do this and I should do this and I should do that. And my question is there anything you should stop doing? If you have to choose what matters more, then that's the thing that's going to really help you. All right. So you have to choose what matters more for you, your team, and the organization. Number 4 is use your voice. Don't let the noise start to define the direction of your team. Your job as a leader is to help others focus as well. Communicate what matters and do it over and over again by using your voice. Number 5 is I think you should reflect weekly. Ask yourself these questions. What's noise right now? What's the opportunity in the chaos or the challenge in front of us right now? 3 sort of key areas within this one is that you should filter, you should refocus, and you need to move forward. Listeners, here's an interesting quote by a person called Hans Hofmann, an artist. The ability to simplify means to eliminate the unnecessary so that the necessary may speak. Listeners, that's leadership. Cutting through the unnecessary, letting the necessary speak loud and clearly. So here's my challenge or call to action for you for this week. Why are you letting noise get in the way? What will you stop doing? What truly matters right now to move the needle, and are you focused on it? Remember, clarity isn't found. It's created. You need to go for it and look for it and make it happen. And it's your job as a leader to create it, as I said, for yourself and for others. Keep leading, keep changing, and remember, your leadership matters more than ever. Hey listeners, that's it for this episode. It's always a pleasure being with you. Thanks for joining me on the Leadership is Changing podcast. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.